Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the first live session for this course. I am your instructor, Samit Bhattacharya, and I will be waiting for your queries. If you have any queries, please note that here I am not going to deliver any lecture. So if you are waiting for a lecture, that is not going to happen. But if you have any doubts, any queries related to the lectures or any other things related to the course, please come forward and post your queries, or you can directly interact with me by using your microphone. So please go ahead. I'll be waiting for your response, waiting for your inputs. So for those who have come or joined later, please put in your queries. Here I will be answering your queries. So please don't wait for me to deliver any lecture. I'm not going to give any lecture in this live session. Okay, I think I got one query, Brusali Nandurkar. But that is a rather broad question. What do you mean by human-computer interaction? I think in the lectures it is already defined. It is an area of study. You can think of it as an area of study which deals with design and evaluation of interactive systems. Specifically the systems that are to be used by layman users. So when we try to develop such systems, the theory, the techniques that we employ, or the kind of things that we need to do, all these things are part of human-computer interaction. So that is a field of study broadly. A more formal definition is already given in the lectures. Please go through it. Okay, I got another question. How to combine HCI and data visualization? So that is again a rather broad question. HCI is a field of study. Data visualization is another field of study. And if data visualization is to be developed for laypersons, then whatever HCI principles we have learned or we need to use those while building data visualization tools. But it is a rather broad question, so my answer will be again very broad. So if you have specific questions, please put it forward. So I got another question. How do different communication metaphors shape the relations in a design team? It is not very clear. What do you mean by relations? Professional relations, or what kind of relations you are referring to here? Please elaborate. So you can use your microphone also. Saurabh Biswas, if you can hear me, you can use your microphone also. Then another question I got, how is microwave a computer? Please go through the lecture. It is already mentioned there. If you have specific point in the relevant lecture. So this is a rather straightforward question, which is already explained in the lecture in details. If you have any specific question related to that explanation, please put it here rather than asking for the whole topic, whole lecture. I'd like to request you to kindly put specific queries related to a lecture rather than the topic of the whole lecture. Okay. So how do different communication metaphors shape the relations in a design team? That I am not very sure I can answer. That is not anyway covered in the course, and I also am not very much aware of how these things take place. So unfortunately, I will not be able to answer. What are some of the challenges that can be encountered while applying ubiquitous computing to classroom environment? What are some of the challenges that can be encountered while applying ubiquitous computing in classroom environment? So from technology side, the issue of networks. So whether seamless network is available or not for the user experience. That is the technological aspect. Also, availability of network enabled devices, affordable network enabled devices. Those are technological issues. From the pedagogical side, of course, whether the application is affecting the flow of lecture or how to be aware of the classroom status, how to take corrective actions if there is some effect of the technological intervention on the learning process. These are from pedagogical side some of the issues. So broadly, these are the issues. I hope you got some broad idea of the problems. How can HCI become an accepted part of learning for late adopters such as senior citizens? Now that is, see, this is a rather broad research questions that you are putting in. There are works related to senior citizen systems developed for senior citizens where these type of issues are addressed. And it cannot be a very broad question like this. There has to be application specific scenarios for specific applications, how it can be made accessible to the senior citizens. That type of research are already going on. Now, for specific applications, we have to find out the needs, the requirements, the abilities of the specific senior citizen group. Now, senior citizens, again, is not a homogeneous group. There are wide variations in terms of their physical and cognitive abilities. So we cannot simply say, okay, this is good for every senior citizen. You have to find out the requirements through studies. We have to find out the constraints through studies. Based on that, we have to take a design decision. And those are necessarily application specific. What are the thrust areas in current scenario of HCI? There are several thrust areas. One is extended reality, which includes virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. One is ubiquitous systems, as I think covered in brief in some of the lectures. Then we have brain-computer interfaces. We have natural user interfaces, and so on. But of course, these natural user interfaces are part of ubiquitous systems. So in a sense, ubiquitous systems can be considered to be a big area. Then extended reality, then brain-computer interfaces. All these are active research areas in HCI. And under each of these broad areas, there are several sub-areas that are currently in focus. How to tackle the challenge of having inexperienced users in games when it comes to user-centered design for gamified services. Well, these type of questions do not have brief answers. These are research issues. I think these cannot be answered in 1 or 2 lines. Okay, it requires sustained work with specific areas. So again, like this is again another broad area, how to tackle the challenge of having inexperienced users in games. So that depends on the kind of games, the things that are part of the game. But broadly, what I can say is that when we are designing any interactive system, there are broadly 3 types of users that are kept in mind: novice, intermittent, and expert. So already design guidelines are there, which takes care of novice users, intermittent users, and expert users. So those guidelines can be followed, which are meant for novice users. But those guidelines may not be sufficient. Along with that, you probably have to study a little bit more on the inexperienced user behavior. And then based on that, you may need to modify your design a bit, but those are part of empirical studies and data analysis. But as a starting point, you can definitely go ahead with the guidelines that are already designed keeping in mind novice users. What are the factors that a designer should consider while designing a user interface for interactive systems that will be deployed on marine vessels? It does not matter where it is getting deployed. So first thing in HCI is who are the users? Now on the marine vessels, who are going to use this system? So unless that is specified, you cannot study their behavior and accordingly can take a call on the design. So first thing you need to know is who are the users. So is it captain of the vessel, or is it the other boatman or some scientist who are going to use it? And accordingly, you have to design it after studying those people. If it is a well-known group of users, then already such studies are available. Based on that, you have to design. But one thing here you have to keep in mind is that, as you mentioned, these marine vessels, if it is a specialized vessel manned by scientists and highly expert technical personnel, then probably HCI is not a big issue here because they are not layman users. So there we should not even bother about this question of how to design. Any reasonable set of guidelines for interface design should be good enough because those people can learn and retain the knowledge as they are not laypersons. But if you are designing for somebody who is not technical experts or not expected to understand the technical things in details, then probably it makes sense. And regarding your question related to the factors, so unless you specify the users, you will not be able to identify the factors that are important. How would you call the next generation of HCI? Well, the question is not very clear. You mean to say that the HCI term is obsolete? Now, why I should not call the next generation of interactive systems as part of HCI or human computer interaction field? Next generation of interactive system development. Now, okay, first let me point out one issue here, that when you frame this question, how would you call the next generation of HCI? You are assuming that HCI is a system, and you are trying to figure out a name for this next generation of systems. But that is not the right way to use the term HCI. As I said, HCI is human-computer interaction. It does not refer to any system. It refers to a field of study where we deal with the development of such systems and whatever theory we need to build such systems that actually are acceptable to laypersons. That field is called HCI. It does not refer to any system. So next generation of HCI, this question itself is not properly framed. You may call it next generation of interactive systems. What we want to call next generation of interactive systems. So if that is the question, then I can have some specific answers. Like in the earlier generations or even in the current generation, we are familiar with the term GUIs, graphical user interfaces. Now GUIs are no longer in vogue. The other terms which are being given to the current generation of interactive systems, there are several terms like natural user interfaces, NUIs, or tangible user interfaces, ubiquitous systems, extended reality systems, and so on. So these are the terms. Even VUIs, voice user interfaces, are also there. Then brain computer interfaces. So these are some of the terms that are being used nowadays to refer to current generation or future generation of interactive systems. Touch user interfaces is also one popular term, TUIs. Okay, Tamjid Usman. Metaverse does not seem to be for layman users. So how it will affect the upcoming generation in terms of HCI? Now that is a very interesting question. Now, first of all, this assertion that metaverse does not seem to be for layman users, well, that assertion may not be correct. Metaverse is branded as the next generation of user computer interfaces. Where instead of living in the real world and interacting with the system, it is claimed that the users will be transported to a virtual world where the interaction will take place. Now, the term user here does not mean only technical experts. Anybody who can afford a headset is part of the user group. So it is not necessarily only for technical experts. Now, is there anything new here? Of course, the scale at which it is being conceptualized. Otherwise, already HCI issues related to virtual reality or augmented reality or mixed reality are well studied, and it is going on for quite some time. So from HCI point of view, it is not something which is very new, except the scale. Of course, when scale comes and other technical interventions comes like networked virtual reality or networked systems, then some of the principles may need to be changed, altered. So all those studies are going on. And in this network system, collaboration of virtual avatars, all these things poses new challenges to the HCI community. Those are there. But in general, these issues are not entirely new. Already people are working on it. Okay, there is one more question. And what are the psychological effects of the metaverse? How human behavior and mental model will be affected by the same? Yes, so you have posed a very relevant question. But as I said, metaverse is still an emerging concept. Not everything is known. What kind of effect it is going to have on the users, those are being studied, but the final say is still not there. Definitely there will be some effect, but what exactly is going to be the effect? It depends on how much exposure, for how long, to what content the user is getting. So all these things, the nature of the content, the amount of the content, and the duration of the exposure, plus the physical and psychological constraints of the user. All these determine the effect. And again, it varies from one application to another. If you are going to be hooked to the metaverse for the whole day, definitely the kind of effect that you are going to have is not likely to be pleasant vis-a-vis somebody who is hooking up to the metaverse for say half an hour or so. So all these things are there, but the effect is being studied. In this Microsoft Teams platform, I think if you can, please use your microphone and pose the question rather than typing. Then probably you'll be able to elaborate the questions better. Of course, assuming that your microphone works. how do children adapt to e-learning interfaces? So one thing we have to be very clear about, that is that when we use the term children, what it refers to. If you are saying those belonging to teenage group, then that is one issue. If you are saying those at the primary level, that is another issue. So everybody we can call children, but then their adaptation will vary. So you have to specify the group. Like for any other interactive systems, here also, when you are talking of children and e-learning systems, you have to specify what system, what kind of interaction. Unless that is mentioned, then there is no general answer to it. But at a very broad level, what has been observed is that long exposure to computer-based systems definitely has its side effects. So if, and also the kind of technology that is being used, like say for example, if a teenager is using smartphone to log into some e-learning interface and use it for a long duration, where while he or she is mobile, that is not sitting at a place, then the typing or holding the phone somewhere or keeping it somewhere or looking at the screen, assuming that there are lots of screen contents to consume, all these things, if exposed for a very long duration, that might have some effect. But in general, what has been seen nowadays is that many online courses are being subscribed to by teenagers. I'm not talking of primary children, but teenagers. And they are quite adept at consuming these e-learning interfaces. But then the long-term effect, if they are continuously exposed to these things, there are some studies on the long-term effect which says that it may affect their ability to pay attention, ability to think independently, as well as musculoskeletal effect, that is using their hands for touch interaction for quite some time may have musculoskeletal effect. So some studies do point to those areas, but otherwise it has been found that whether by force or by choice, teenagers and young people are consuming e-learning interfaces, are active users of e-learning interfaces. So I would say the adaptation is quite high, but not so in the primary age group. What methodology for evaluating a haptic interface is recommended? Now, why haptic input should be evaluated differently, say, than a touch input? In a broad sense, these are both are input mechanisms. So to evaluate any input mechanism, we can employ standard evaluation techniques, some of which are already covered in the lectures. And those techniques, particularly empirical studies to evaluate haptic interface, can be employed, need not be very different. Of course, when you are framing the questions, research questions, that need to be specific to the input mechanism. Otherwise, the broad approach, framing of research questions, hypothesis, collection of data with independent and dependent variables, all these things should remain the same. The approach should remain the same, only the specifics will change. If you have not yet covered those evaluation techniques, empirical evaluation techniques, those are part of the lecture. So once you go through those lectures, you'll understand how to evaluate empirically interactive systems and different aspects of the systems, including input, output, interaction. And the same methodology you can use for evaluating haptic interfaces. After the completion of this course, how to get internship in your guidance. You contact me once the course is over. Please contact me. At that time, if some work is available, I will let you know. So where are you from? What you are doing currently? Saurabh? So are you okay? MTech. Fine. Yes, so once the course is over, do contact me. what is the effect of culture-centric UI in HCI? Okay, so culture-centric UI is the term that I am not very familiar with. However, when we are talking of HCI, it is assumed that the culture is studied before we go for developing an interactive system for a specified group of users. So definitely culture plays a role in acceptability of the interface. So there are several human factors, including culture, which affect the acceptability of the interactive system. So culture has to be taken into account, and in general in HCI, it is considered to be a key component for development. But I am not sure about this culture-centric UI. So it is not the right way to have such a category. Culture should be a part of all UIs. Okay, another question is, human psychology, neuroscience, and many more things are interrelated to HCI. My question is how to manage plethora of knowledge to maintain. Is it T or I? T-shape personality. Now, what is T-shape personality? I don't know. So kindly elaborate what you mean by that. You can use your microphone and can directly talk if your microphone is working.
Sir, T-shaped personality is basically being specialized in one category and being a general person, is like having knowledge in many categories of field of work. That is T-shaped.
So you mean to say that if somebody possesses this personality, that means he or she has knowledge in many different areas.
Yeah, suppose I am a UI UX designer, so I am having a specialized in this particular field, but at the same time I'm having knowledge of different fields like human psychology, neuroscience, to be a better UI UX designer. That is called T-shaped personality, and it is like most desirable personality in as of a designer.
So how to manage this knowledge again? So can there be really any answer to this question? Because first of all, generally a good UI system goes through, means when you want to develop and deploy the system in the market, there is this system development life cycle comprises of several stages, as probably you have gone through in one of the lectures. And it is not necessary that the same person is part of all the stages. So when you say that you need to have knowledge of psychology, neuroscience, all these things, they may influence the stage of requirement gathering. They may influence the stage of this contextual inquiry studies to identify requirements. So people knowledgeable in those areas may be more appropriate for that stage, whereas people knowledgeable in system development, software engineering, they may be more appropriate for system development stage. So it is not necessary. And generally, I don't think anybody can claim that he or she is master in all the areas that are required to understand fully the different aspects of HCI or an interactive system. that is not necessarily the case. Now, there is one way in which you can master this. So, for example, suppose you want to develop an interactive system and you are from the engineering background or computer science background. So you don't have much knowledge about this ethnography, about this psychology, about this neuroscience as such. Then, being somebody from a different background, are you not eligible to develop such a system? Or will you not be able to develop such a system? I would say it is not necessarily the case, because those expertise have already been used to come up with guidelines, general guidelines, to build, to develop such interfaces of interactive systems. And those guidelines you can definitely understand and follow. Although you may not know how those guidelines have come, what studies went behind those guidelines, how to conduct those studies, you may not know that. But the end result, that is the guidelines, you can definitely use to build such a system. So I am not very sure that unless you have this T-shaped personality, you cannot work in this area. Definitely with your own knowledge base, you can work. And people with other expertise have already contributed in the form of different components that you can use in your own work. That way you can assimilate knowledge from different areas, although you may not necessarily have expertise in all the pieces of knowledge. Is that understood, Samjit?
Yes, yes, sir.
So what is your background, Samjit? Are you from
So
engineering background or some other design background?
I'm pursuing BTech, but at the same time, I'm a professional UX designer. So I'm associated with a company as a part-time designer and also pursuing my BTech,
BTech in which discipline?
computer science.
Okay, okay.
And also,
That's
sir, I'm
great.
very interested in neuroscience and human psychology. So that question was little part.
Mhm. But as I said, it is not necessary that you try to master everything. Then probably that will be very difficult.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all these are quite specialized knowledge, and understanding everything in depth will be difficult. if we are facing any kind of difficulties in learning HCI, then are you helped us always? Again, the question is not very clear. So within the confine of this course, as long as it goes on, there will be few live sessions. In those sessions, you can get your doubts cleared. And if in between you face any problem, you can always drop me a mail. Because since there will be no live session, I will not be available live to help you. But you can always drop me a mail. And if for some reason I am not responding, you can always contact NPTEL team. They can forward the mail to me and give me a reminder. So in that sense, yes, I will always be helpful, but not in the live manner.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. We could hear some sound. Refer some good resources. Already some reference books are mentioned. Good resources on what? For the whole HCI, please use the reference books that are mentioned. Okay, it's my pleasure, Samjit. Thank you for putting in your queries. We still have some more time, so if you have any more queries, you can put in. Well, next question I cannot answer. Why sir course is not 12 weeks? I felt 8 weeks good enough. So I'd like to ask NPTEL team. So is there anyone from NPTEL? So is the time over or we still have some more time? It's over. Okay, then I will just answer this last one and then we can close. So the Saurabh asked, extend something new with this course. Okay, I'll see in future whether something can be added to this course and can be extended to 12 weeks. Anyway, so as I am told, the session time is over. So thank you to all of you for putting in your queries. I believe I have answered several queries and I hope that you could clear your doubts. If not, you can always drop me a mail, as I said. I'll try to respond to those as early as possible. Thank you very much and looking forward to see you in the next live session. So happy learning. Hope you are going to learn a lot from this course. Thank you. Yes, Saurabh, please contact me whenever you need. Thank you.